The 9 shocking archaeological discoveries worldwide that left experts stunned. Surely you have heard stories about mysterious events and unsolved enigmas in human history, but there are archaeological discoveries that, upon being unearthed, have stunned the scientific community and even caused widespread confusion. Today, we will embark on a remarkable journey together to explore 9 terrifying archaeological findings around the world. Dark secrets, strange artifacts, and even evidence that has completely changed humanity's understanding of the past. From ancient tombs filled with mysteries that have never been decoded, to massive architectural structures far beyond the imagination of their era, each discovery carries a fascinating and eerie story. Some artifacts have made archaeologists ask themselves, do we really understand history? Or are there secrets buried beneath the earth and stone that have been hidden for so long? You will see never-before-published images and secrets that even experts approach with caution. This is not just a story about the past, but a quest to uncover the truth, making each of us wonder what else remains hidden beyond our sight. And most importantly, why are these discoveries so terrifying? Let's step into the mysterious world of archaeology, where the strangest things await to be revealed. Are you ready? Let's begin with the very first discovery right now. The oldest fully intact shipwreck in the world. Hidden deep beneath the cold, dark waters of the Black Sea, more than 6,560 feet below the surface, where not a single ray of light can penetrate, archaeologists have just uncovered one of the most groundbreaking discoveries in maritime archaeology history. The wreck of an ancient Greek merchant ship, over 2,400 years old, astonishingly preserved in near-perfect condition. From the mast and the rudder to the rowing benches and wooden oars, all remain there, motionless in the silent depths, as if frozen in time. This miraculous find did not come by chance, but is the result of the Black Sea Maritime Archaeology Project, one of the largest and most ambitious deep-sea explorations ever undertaken. The project is a collaboration between the University of Southampton, UK, and the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, led by Professor John Adams and Professor Lyudmil Vagalinsky. They surveyed more than 770 square miles of the Black Sea floor, using cutting-edge underwater archaeological technology to search for traces of ancient civilizations. Along the way, they discovered over 60 shipwrecks from various periods, from 17th-century Cossack pirate ships to Roman merchant vessels carrying wine amphorae. But none of these finds made as much impact as this ancient Greek ship, the oldest intact shipwreck ever known to humanity. The 75-feet-long vessel was found more than 6,560 feet beneath the sea, a harsh depth but an ideal environment for preserving organic materials like wood and fabric. Because the Black Sea's bottom waters are completely oxygen-free, normal decay processes do not occur, allowing the ship to remain intact for millennia. This discovery stunned scientists, as all previous knowledge of ancient merchant ships was based only on drawings, models, and pottery images, never before on such a complete physical artifact. One of the most astonishing details is how closely the ship's shape matches the depiction on the famous siren vase displayed at the British Museum. This vase, dating to roughly the same period, shows the Greek hero Odysseus, legendary in Homer's epic, tied to a mast to resist the enchanting song of the sirens. The ship painted on the vase and the one resting on the Black Sea floor almost perfectly align, raising chilling possibilities that this could be the real-life model for myths told for thousands of years. Professor John Adams, leader of the Black Sea Map team, said, "A fully intact ship from the ancient world lying more than 6,560 feet underwater is something I never thought possible. This will completely change our understanding of ancient shipbuilding and maritime technology. Techniques that were once assumed from carvings or historical texts can now be studied directly from a real, pristine specimen, potentially rewriting an entire chapter of maritime archaeology." Once a faint footnote in history, this ship has transcended time to become a vivid testament to the skill, seafaring ability, and commercial mindset of ancient Greeks. It is not just a shipwreck, it is a gateway to a forgotten world beneath the ocean surface, where history waits to be told through every wooden plank and oar that remains. And the lingering question remains, if a 2,400-year-old ship can be this well preserved, what other ancient secrets might still lie hidden beneath the ocean depths? Can you guess? As for me, I believe the deep sea is always mysterious, and many ancient secrets surely remain, waiting for us, those who love exploration and history, to uncover them. The 4,800-year-old skeletons of a mother and child in Taiwan. Beneath the smooth, dark soil of Taiwan's central plains, an astonishing scene beyond words left the entire archaeological team speechless. It wasn't a grand palace, golden treasures, or majestic monuments, but a deeply human moment, fossilized for over 4,800 years. It was the skeletal remains of a young mother, bent over tightly embracing her infant child, her invisible eyes seemingly still gazing at her baby with the full love of a mother from a prehistoric era. This bone portrait is not only an archaeological testament, but a timeless haunting that raises countless questions about death, life, and the undying bond of motherhood. Specifically, in 2014, during the excavation of a prehistoric mass grave in Taichung, one of Taiwan's most important archaeological sites, researchers uncovered a total of 48 skeletons resting strangely in the earth. These remains are the earliest evidence of human presence in the region, dating back as far as 4,800 years. Each skeleton tells its own story of individuals who once lived, breathed, and walked the earth. But among these dozens of anonymous skeletons, only one image caused the entire excavation team to pause, fall silent, and feel a deep emotional impact. The skeleton of a young woman kneeling, holding a small child in her arms, bent over as if whispering something to her baby one last time. Dr. Chu Wei Li, director of anthropology at the National Museum of Natural Science in Taiwan and a direct participant in the excavation, shared that the whole team was left speechless when they found the two skeletons. They were not just looking at cold, dry bones, but witnessing a vivid moment, a profound symbol of motherhood preserved for nearly 5 millennia. The mother, estimated to be about 20 to 25 years old and roughly 5 feet 3 inches tall, was found kneeling, cradling the child with her left arm, her head bowed as if looking at her child for the last time. The infant was determined through analysis to be about 6 months old, with bones measuring approximately 20 inches long, indicating the child had lived at least half a year before passing away. Initially, researchers thought the child might have died from premature birth or birth complications, but bone evidence disproved this theory. The thought-provoking fact is that both mother and child died simultaneously in the same position, evoking an unbreakable bond that had never faded. What caused their deaths? Was it an accident, a natural disaster, or a mysterious ritual sacrifice? While the exact cause remains unknown, one thing is undeniable. Their posture was not random. It seems frozen in time, as if the mother tried to hold her child in the final moments of life. Prehistoric Taiwan left few written records for us to follow, but through archaeological sites like this grave, we can glimpse the lives and beliefs of ancient people. The carefully arranged burial of 48 skeletons shows evidence of funerary rituals, an essential practice in early communities. They didn't just live and hunt together, but also buried each other with great respect. Among them, the mother and child have become a symbol of love that transcends the boundaries between life and death, something even modern civilization struggles to fully express through science or words. The story of the mother holding her child is one of archaeology's most profoundly human discoveries, an area often dominated by numbers, dates, and bones. It reminds us that archaeology is not just about finding objects, but also about uncovering emotions, memories, and the spiritual values of ancient people. Those who lived nearly 5,000 years ago might not have known writing or machines and left no walls or written histories, but they lived, loved, and protected their children, just like any of us today. The underground cemetery beneath Berlin. Just beneath the bustling streets of modern-day Berlin, right under the straight cobblestone roads and seemingly lifeless parking lots, an astonishing archaeological mystery has been uncovered that left experts stunned. In 2024, a team of researchers accidentally discovered a vast underground cemetery containing nearly 4,000 human skeletons buried beneath the city. What is truly remarkable is that nearly half of these remains date from 1047 to 1299 AD, placing them squarely within the darkest and most chaotic period of the Middle Ages. This discovery is not only a major archaeological find, but also a gateway into a little-known chapter of history, a chapter filled with stories of death, suffering, and survival amidst disease, war, and faith. Each skeleton lying beneath the earth tells a story. Some of the children's remains reveal heartbreaking truths. Rickets, tuberculosis, scabies, clear signs of malnutrition and harsh living conditions. At a time when clean water was a luxury and medical knowledge was limited to ancient prayers, death was a constant companion. For a child to survive into adulthood was nearly miraculous. The skeletons of adult men tell a different story, one of brutal violence and bloodshed. Many died with clear wounds from axes or swords, slashes to the skull, broken bones in arms and legs, indicating they faced violence that could have come from war, uprisings, or even public executions. There were no gentle departures here, only fierce deaths in a merciless age. Beyond physical suffering, social class and religious beliefs were etched into the layers of soil and artifacts left behind. Some skeletons were buried with special items, a silver coin placed in the mouth, a ritual payment to the ferryman of the river Styx to carry the soul to the afterlife, silver pins, keys, and iron locks, signs that the deceased were not ordinary people. They might have been members of the local nobility, clergy, or held important roles within the religious community of that time. These traces prove that this was not an anonymous folk cemetery, but a large-scale communal burial ground reflecting clear social stratification from the 11th to the 13th centuries. The question arises, why were so many people buried here? And why did this once final resting place of thousands vanish from historical maps for centuries? Historians suggest this area might once have been part of a medieval monastery or hospital, possibly belonging to the Cistercian order, a religious group influential throughout Europe during this period. Such orders were often linked with centers for healing and charity, places where life and death intertwined in every corner. Now, after centuries buried beneath concrete and asphalt, this cemetery has re-emerged, like a whisper from the past eager to tell its unfinished story. Medieval Berlin was not the vast metropolis it is today. It was a newly formed land, unstable, with power divided among feudal lords, where war and plague could strike at any moment. Finding nearly 4,000 skeletons reveals just how harsh life was back then. Even more importantly, it proves the existence of a community, a complex social system with hierarchy, beliefs, and rituals deeply marked by medieval European culture. This discovery is not only a significant archaeological milestone, but also a mirror reflecting the stark contrasts between past and present. We, modern people, walk, shop, and work every day on the very land that once served as the final resting place for thousands of souls. While today we have advanced medical technology, abundant food, and comfortable lives, just a few centuries ago, cold, disease, and violence were constant threats, and life hung by a fragile thread. The Berlin excavation has opened not only a new archaeological site, but also a whole new chapter in the city's history, the chapter of nameless people, of buried pain, and of a past never fully told. This is not just a journey underground, it is a journey into consciousness, where bones silently speak, telling the stories of those who lived, loved, and suffered, and now, thanks to archaeology, are remembered once again. Turtle fossil and nest, amid the ruins of a buried city. Beneath the thick layers of ash that engulfed the ancient city of Pompeii, buried by Mount Vesuvius over 2 millennia ago, a strange secret has just been uncovered. During a recent excavation, archaeologists discovered a fossilized turtle along with its nest, buried deep beneath the clay floor of what was once an ancient warehouse. This seemingly small find opens a wide door for us to look more deeply into the daily life and the unanswered mysteries of Pompeii's ancient inhabitants. What astonishes isn't just the fossilized turtle itself, but the circumstances of its discovery. Unlike most remains in Pompeii, this fossil was not covered by volcanic ash from the catastrophic eruption in 79 AD. Instead, it was found beneath a layer of clay inside the former warehouse, and notably, it died before the disastrous eruption even occurred. This raises many questions for scientists about the turtle's death. Was it simply a natural accident, or was it related to cultural or religious rituals practiced by the people there? The fact that a turtle and its nest were intentionally buried beneath a man-made structure makes the latter hypothesis particularly compelling. In many ancient cultures, turtles were not merely animals. They were often seen as symbols of longevity, the cosmos, or fertility. It's possible the Pompeii residents assigned sacred meaning to turtles as well. If so, placing this turtle and its eggs in a special spot under the floor of the warehouse may have been a ritual act, perhaps a ceremony for good fortune or a tribute to natural life forces. The fact that the fossil wasn't covered by ash like the rest of the city indicates it was buried before the Great Disaster, meaning it was deliberately placed there long before Pompeii was wiped from the map. But the turtle is not the only surprise. This excavation has revealed even more. Alongside the fossil and nest, archaeologists uncovered fragments of frescoes and artifacts dating back to the 1st century BC, hundreds of years before Pompeii was buried. These finds help vividly reconstruct the daily life, aesthetic sensibilities, and artistic activities of the city's inhabitants. The surviving fresco pigments remain remarkably vibrant, depicting mythological tales, everyday scenes, and lavish banquet settings. Images that reveal Pompeii was once a dazzling cultural center of ancient Rome. Pompeii has long been known as an archaeological time capsule, where time stood still on that fateful day in 79 AD. The sudden eruption of Mount Vesuvius buried the entire city in ash, freezing moments of life at that instant. Yet this new discovery of a turtle fossil and nest tells a different story, a deeper layer of history predating the disaster. It opens a fresh perspective on the city's past. Pompeii was not only a victim of natural catastrophe, but also a place that underwent various phases of growth, transformation, and perhaps even rebuilding after earlier events. From a single turtle and a few eggs, we are once again reminded that archaeology is not just about uncovering glittering treasures or grand architecture. Sometimes, the smallest, simplest discoveries carry the power to open new chapters in human history. Because every trace, every layer of soil, every creature excavated is a piece in the larger puzzle of the past, a puzzle we are still piecing together, step by step, to better understand our ancestors and the world they inhabited. Excavations at Pompeii continue, promising more stories to be unearthed each day. The story of this turtle may be just the beginning, a small piece that illuminates a vast, emotional, and mysterious portrait of a city buried by time but never forgotten. Flying objects from ancient Egypt. At the Temple of Seti I in Abydos, Egypt, a grand religious monument built over 3,000 years ago, strange carvings were discovered about 33 feet above the entrance. In these reliefs, shapes clearly resembling helicopters, submarines, and even spacecraft appear at first glance. How could images seemingly from the 20th century appear in such an ancient structure? This question has sparked a multitude of theories, ranging from scientific to supernatural, from experimental to mystical, all revolving around one unsolved mystery. Did the ancient Egyptians actually know how to fly? Since these carvings were first publicized in 1848, archaeologists and historians have been stunned. Some researchers, like the famous Egyptologist Alan Alford, argue that these stone carvings are not coincidental. He believes they provide evidence that the ancient Egyptians witnessed, or at least imagined, flying machines similar to modern helicopters. Of course, this view is highly controversial. Other scholars claim these images are merely overlapping hieroglyphics and chemical symbols created during centuries of temple restoration. However, this dismissive hypothesis struggles to explain why the carved lines are so clear and detailed, featuring rotor blades, aircraft fuselages, and tail fins, that they strikingly resemble modern aerodynamic principles. Meanwhile, some symbolists link the images to the bee, a sacred symbol associated with Pharaoh Seti I. The bee was not only a holy creature, but also a royal title symbolizing the power and divine authority of the Egyptian king. So, were these carvings stylized bees or emblems of airborne power? Yet the most controversial hypothesis comes from Richard Hoagland, a well-known UFO researcher. He claims these reliefs are vivid proof of his theory. The ancient Egyptians were descendants of Martians, and Egypt was once a landing site for extraterrestrials due to its dry landscape resembling the Red Planet. However, Hoagland's theory faces a major flaw. If Martians came from a planet without oceans, why would they carve submarines, vessels associated with water environments? That question remains unanswered. But beyond science fiction, there are also convincing experimental discoveries. Historian William Deutsch boldly proposed that some members of the Egyptian royal family, including Pharaoh Tutankhamun, died in flying accidents involving primitive gliders like hot air balloons or gliders. Deutsch didn't stop at theory. He built flying models based on the ancient carvings and found some could actually glide through the air. Could it be that ancient Egypt was not just the cradle of pyramids and mummies, but also the birthplace of aeronautical principles? Ancient flying object evidence is not limited to Egypt. In Colombia, Peru, Costa Rica, and Venezuela, archaeologists uncovered 33 golden artifacts, called the Colombian Golden Airplanes, dating back to the first millennium BC. About 1.5 inches long, these objects resemble fish or insects, but feature astonishingly precise designs with wings, vertical stabilizers, and tails, perfectly in line with aerodynamic principles. In 1956, these planes were exhibited in New York at the Pre-Columbian Gold Exhibition. American aeronautical engineers were impressed. They even tested models in wind tunnels and found some prototypes could potentially reach supersonic speeds. Inspired by these designs, Lockheed later developed early Cold War military aircraft prototypes. So if ancient people had concepts, even access to the principles of flight, the bigger question is, where did they get that knowledge? Could it have been a lost technology buried with fallen dynasties, never passed down? Or are we modern humans underestimating the intellect of our ancestors? People who calculated the cycles of Sirius, built massive pyramids with astonishing precision, and perhaps even flew thousands of years ago? While the final answer remains elusive, one thing is clear: archaeology doesn't just uncover shards or fossils. It sparks imagination and raises questions history hasn't yet answered. And sometimes, a small carving on a stone wall can challenge even modern science. The 4,500-year-old royal boat. Amid the scorching desert sands of Egypt, where ancient secrets have been buried for millennia, archaeologists have just unveiled a discovery that has stunned the global scientific community. A wooden boat nearly 60 feet long, dating back more than 4,500 years. It was excavated from the South Abusir necropolis, the burial site of powerful figures from the early civilization of ancient Egypt. This artifact is not only a rare survivor after centuries hidden beneath the sand, but also a precious historical witness that helps reconstruct ancient boat-building techniques, funerary rituals, and the social structure of one of humanity's most glorious civilizations. When the excavation team found the boat resting on a large stone slab, buried deep beneath the sandy soil near an ancient tomb, they immediately recognized the extraordinary significance of this find. In over 2 centuries of studying ancient Egyptian civilization, very few boats have been preserved intact enough for detailed analysis. Uncovering such a large vessel, especially in the South Abusir cemetery, famous as the resting place of the nobility, opens new hypotheses about funerary rites and symbols of power during the late 3rd dynasty, transitioning into the early 4th dynasty of ancient Egypt. This boat was not a mere means of transportation, but part of a solemn burial ritual for the elite of the time. Known as a solar boat, it was believed to carry the soul of the deceased across the journey to the afterlife, allowing them to live eternally with the gods. With its impressive length of nearly 60 feet and complex design, this boat clearly did not belong to just anyone. It likely belonged to a royal family member or a powerful religious figure who played a key role in the court. What especially caught archaeologists' attention was the number and style of pottery vessels found around the boat. The jars, pots, and amphorae were deliberately arranged, indicating that this was no random burial, but a carefully prepared ritual, likely reflecting the rich religious and cultural beliefs of ancient Egyptians. Researchers say the combination of boat architecture and accompanying artifacts shows this was a special ceremony, not only to honor the deceased, but also to demonstrate the advanced level of ancient boat building, a craft considered vital to the Nile River Society. It is hard to imagine that over 45 centuries ago, humans could create such large boats with sturdy structures and intricate techniques using only hand tools, raw wood, and reed ropes. This proves that the Egyptians were not only masters of pyramid construction, but also pioneering naval engineers with deep knowledge of aerodynamics, hydraulics, and mechanics, long before the concept of modern engineering existed. Beyond its scientific value, this discovery holds great significance for Egypt's tourism industry, a sector once a national pride but severely impacted by ongoing political unrest since 2011. In 2010, Egypt welcomed over 14.7 million tourists, but just 6 years later, that number plummeted to only 1.2 million in the first quarter of 2016. In this context, the excavation of the 4,500-year-old royal boat not only revives the glory of the Nile civilization, but could also serve as an important lifeline to reignite international tourism fueled by history and archaeology. The boat at Abusir is more than an artifact. It is a letter from the past, telling the story of people who lived, died, and believed in an afterlife where souls embarked on sacred boats, crossing the legendary Nile River to reach the shores of immortality. In every piece of wood, in every mortise joint, one can sense the reverence for death, the understanding of the cosmos, and the yearning for eternity, values that remain deeply moving even after thousands of years. And right there in the silent sands of Abusir, as the layers of dust are slowly cleared by archaeologists' hands, a part of history awakens, a vivid, majestic, and true chapter in humanity's journey from this life to the next. Egypt is not only the land of pyramids, but also the land of boats that carry souls beyond death, living forever in legend. The cannibal ship in the frozen Arctic. Amid the desolate, deadly icy wilderness of Canada's Arctic, one of the most chilling mysteries in British maritime history is gradually being unveiled through scattered bones found on the barren shores of King William Island. This is the story of the HMS Erebus expedition, a symbol of ambition and tragedy during the age of polar exploration, but also a grim witness to one of the darkest hypotheses ever: the existence of cannibalism during the Victorian era. The journey began in 1845 when two ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, under the command of Sir John Franklin, left England to find the Northwest Passage, a maritime route believed to connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the harsh Arctic region. Yet after their last sighting near Greenland, both ships and their 129-man crews vanished without a trace, sparking decades of relentless search and speculation. In 1859, nearly 15 years later, the first two skeletons were found on the shore of King William Island, seated as if waiting desperately for something until their last breath. This was only the start of a series of horrifying discoveries. Over the next century, more skeletal remains were uncovered in 1879, 1932, 1987, and 1992, totaling dozens of isolated bones scattered in the snow, with no graves or markers, only evidence of suffering left behind. Some bones bore rodent bite marks, typical of exposure outdoors. More disturbingly, many skeletons showed signs of precise cut marks, clear evidence of flesh being stripped away, especially around the wrists, where flesh would be easiest to remove in extreme desperation. A Canadian research team confirmed these remains belonged to crew members of HMS Erebus, which had become trapped in thick ice near King William Island around 1846. The wreck lies about 200 nautical miles northwest of Toronto, a place where life seems nearly impossible. John Geiger, one of the lead researchers and president of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, hauntingly remarked, "The ship is almost completely intact. It feels like we're walking on the moon." This scene, combined with archaeological evidence, reveals one of the darkest chapters in maritime history: the total collapse of a prestigious expedition under the brutal pressures of nature and the desperate struggle for survival. According to a record found on an icy outcrop near the wreck, after 2 years trapped in ice, only 105 crew members remained alive, and Captain John Franklin had died. The survivors decided to abandon ship, hoping to find rescue or simply escape the hopeless wait for death. They wandered across the frozen sea, exhausted and starving. Meanwhile, canned food, then a new technology, was suspected of causing lead poisoning, which rapidly deteriorated the sailors' health and mental states. Local Inuit accounts from the 19th century told of many sailors dying from illness, cold, and especially of signs of cannibalism for survival. Based on the precise cut marks on the bones, especially around accessible areas like the wrists, scientists cannot rule out the possibility that some sailors, in utter desperation, resorted to the last extreme measure, eating their deceased crewmates to survive. This rare event marks a point where human moral limits were tested by the harshness of the environment. Although the HMS Erebus wreck has been located and partially salvaged, Captain Franklin's remains remain a mystery. Some speculate he may have been buried ashore or still lies somewhere deep inside the permanently frozen ship. What is certain is that the wreck of HMS Erebus has become a vital key, unlocking truths buried for nearly 180 years, where courage, ambition, and despair converge to create a tragedy known as cannibalism in the heart of the Arctic. More than just an archaeological story, this serves as a stark reflection of human fragility against nature and a historical lesson on the price of pride and the hunger to conquer the unknown. The 17 tiny mummies on Arthur's Seat Hill. When we think of mummies, our minds usually go straight to sunlit pyramids, the glorious civilization of Egypt, and great pharaohs buried in magnificent tombs. But few know that in a dark, cold land in northern Europe, land steeped in legends of King Arthur and Camelot, there exists one of the most bizarre archaeological mysteries ever discovered. 17 tiny mummies, placed in 17 small wooden coffins, hidden deep within a rocky cave on Arthur's Seat, Edinburgh, Scotland. No one knows where they came from, why they were made, or what happened to half of them. But one thing is certain: they do not belong to any known dynasty or religion in human history. Arthur's Seat, the dormant volcanic hill east of Edinburgh Castle, is rich in myth and legend, once believed to be the site of Camelot in stories about King Arthur. But in 1836, this fairy tale landscape suddenly became the center of archaeological and media attention when 5 boys, out rabbit hunting, stumbled upon a strange crevice in the rock. Inside, there was no treasure and no human skeletons. Instead, they found 17 tiny coffins, each only about 3 to 4 inches long. Each coffin held a wooden figurine, crudely carved but fully dressed, as if they were miniature human replicas. This strange discovery immediately sparked excitement among Victorian scholars and the public. The July 20th, 1836 issue of the London Times described the find in detail, raising many questions. Why exactly 17 mummies? Why arranged in 3 rows, 2 rows of 8 and 1 row of just 1? And most importantly, who made them and for what purpose? Unfortunately, shortly after the discovery, some boys played recklessly and burned several coffins. Luckily, the remaining ones were collected and temporarily preserved by a professor named Ferguson. He was the first to open these tiny coffins and confirmed that inside were wooden figurines dressed in detailed clothing. However, the mummies then fell into obscurity for over half a century. It wasn't until 1901 that 8 of the surviving figurines suddenly resurfaced and were donated to the National Museum of Scotland. This marked the official beginning of the archaeological quest to uncover the mystery of the tiny mummies. Through careful analysis, researchers found the figurines were carved from soft wood using knives, and notably, most were missing 1 arm, likely to make dressing the figures easier. Of the 8 remaining specimens, 3 were more finely crafted with rounded edges, while the other 5 were quite crude, leading to speculation that at least 2 different people created these unusual works. Studies of the clothing also offered clues about the production period. According to experts Simpson and Menifee, the fabric on the figurines only appeared in Scotland after 1812, when cotton began to replace linen. This suggests the figurines could not have been made before then. But the greatest mystery baffling scholars is the true purpose of these tiny mummies. Some locals believe they were dolls used in magic, perhaps amulets or talismans crafted by witches. Others hypothesize they were spiritual symbols carried by Scottish sailors for protection or to honor deceased loved ones at sea. The most controversial and intriguing theory relates to a notorious Scottish crime: the murder spree of William Burke and William Hare. In the 1820s, these 2 men killed 17 victims to sell their bodies to the Edinburgh Medical School for research. The eerie coincidence of 17 victims and 17 figurines led many to believe the tiny mummies were a strange memorial or act of remorse created by a third party connected to the case but never prosecuted. However, this argument faces a key problem. Among Burke and Hare's 17 victims, 12 were women, while most figurines wore men's clothing. Thus, the link remains inconclusive and the mystery endures. To this day, the whereabouts of 9 figurines remain unknown. Lost over time through private collectors' hands, they may still lie hidden in some dusty attic or secret drawer yet to be opened. The story of the 17 tiny mummies on Arthur's Seat therefore continues, not just as a strange anecdote, but as a symbol of mysteries history has yet to reveal, or perhaps does not want to reveal. In archaeology, not all enigmas have answers, and sometimes it is this very uncertainty that keeps us captivated by the fragments of the past. The beauty mummy in a stone coffin, a 1,000-year-old mystery beneath the waters of Siberia. In the frozen land of Siberia, where winter can bury all traces of life and history under meters of ice and snow, a remarkable archaeological discovery has stunned researchers worldwide. It is the mummy of a woman, an ancient beauty, preserved almost perfectly despite never undergoing any artificial embalming process. She rested quietly in a stone coffin buried deep underground for thousands of years, and miraculously, the harsh natural conditions of Siberia became the perfect guardian of her remains. The story began when water levels at a dam in the Tuva region of southern Siberia suddenly dropped, revealing an ancient tomb long submerged underwater. Archaeologists were astonished to find a mysterious stone coffin containing the body of a young woman, almost untouched by time. Her hair, clothing, and even the burial objects surrounding her were preserved nearly intact, an almost impossible feat for a grave lacking any signs of traditional embalming techniques. Experts from the Novosibirsk Archaeological Institute explain that the mummy was naturally preserved by the extreme environment. Year-round low temperatures, stable humidity, and the sealed environment of the stone coffin created a strange natural biological preservation chamber. The woman wore a dress woven from silk, a luxurious material originating from the East, indicating she was no ordinary person. The fact that a woman living in such a remote place as Siberia was buried with precious fabric and lavish belongings led archaeologists to believe she belonged to the noble class of a nomadic community that once inhabited the region. The artifacts found in the tomb further support this hypothesis. Alongside the mummy were a small mirror, a makeup box containing birch bark, an ancient writing material, and notably, a pouch of pine nuts placed on the woman's chest. In the ancient beliefs of Eurasian nomadic peoples, pine nuts symbolized eternal life and served as talismans to help the soul cross into the afterlife. Their presence not only indicates a spiritual element in the burial rites, but also reflects the strong faith of the culture she belonged to in the afterlife. Based on the dating of the burial items, especially ancient coins and the silk fabric, experts determined that the woman died during the Han Dynasty period of China, approximately between 206 BCE and 220 CE. This time frame coincides with the height of the Silk Road, the vital trade route connecting China to Europe across the harsh landscapes of Central Asia. This raises a fascinating possibility. The mysterious woman might have been a member of a nomadic tribe engaged in trade with ancient China, perhaps a Hun, or a branch of the Scythian tribal confederation, fierce nomadic warriors who dominated the Eurasian steppes for centuries. However, due to the unusual perfection of the mummy's preservation and the luxury of her burial goods, her true identity remains an unanswered question. Who was she? A nomadic princess? The wife or daughter of a tribal leader? Or perhaps a shaman, a spiritual figure within her ancient community? Initial analyses have yet to determine her exact age, cause of death, or specific social status, but the clues gathered have sparked intense curiosity in the international scientific community. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is the rarity of finding a well-preserved ancient mummy inside a stone coffin, a burial practice uncommon among Siberian nomadic cultures. The heavy, roughly crafted yet sealed stone coffin seems to have been specially made for an important individual. This uniqueness drives researchers to delve deeper into the spiritual, social, and political life of the ancient peoples who lived at this crossroads of East and West. Currently, scientists continue to employ modern technologies such as CT scanning, DNA analysis, pollen studies, and radiocarbon dating to uncover more details about the beauty mummy. They hope to soon clarify her identity, origin, and untold secrets of her life, becoming a vivid witness to a turbulent and culturally rich era. Amid the icy heart of Siberia, where only the howl of the wind and snow remain, a voice from a distant past gradually emerges. Through the delicate silk, the pouch of pine nuts, the small mirror, and the stone coffin, to tell the story of a forgotten civilization. And those are the 9 most terrifying archaeological discoveries ever recorded in the world. Mysteries and chilling stories so shocking that even renowned archaeologists were taken aback and couldn't help but shudder. Each artifact, each site, not only helps us better understand the past, but also reminds us that human history still holds many unsolved secrets. From cities buried beneath the earth, to mummies with silent mysteries, to artifacts bearing the marks of horrific events, all open mysterious doors that lead us into another world science has yet to fully explain. If you love mysterious archaeological stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the exciting videos ahead. For now, thank you and see you next time.